Your wait, the most anticipated football game in the state is back.
Good to be back. It's going to be a pretty historic event, actually.
Once again, ESPN's College Game Day choosing to showcase Ames to the nation.
It was a tremendous atmosphere. I mean, this is a great tailgating scene. Got great loyal fans.
Fans ready for the rivalry.
He definitely starts like pacing when his team is losing.
Kid captains excited for their big debut.
I get to see my friends at the football game.
It's fun to be out there.
And you might even see an ordinary Iowan turned famous for his beer sign back in the crowd.
I've had a bunch of people asking me if I'm going to go back to game day, if I'm going to do another sign.
We're live from Jack Trice Stadium for CyHawk Gameday.
Local 5 CyHawk Gameday is sponsored by Nissan.
Welcome into CyHawk Game Day. Of course, a big game today, but before we talk about football, Jeff, 20th anniversary of 9/11, of course, a day none of us can forget, none that we should forget. Of course, plenty of lives lost on that fateful day back in 2000 and one that still sticks with us in our minds. So many heroes that day, but again, such a great loss for this country and one that, again, should never be forgotten.
Yeah, I mean, it's always, you think about it, and it's one of those things that just, until the anniversary comes around, you don't kind of have the perspective of it, but it's one of those days that just reminds you to hug your friends and family, say I love you to your grandparents, your friends, you know, whomever else you can, to kind of just be a positive place, because there is some stuff in this world that you wouldn't really like to be a part of, so you got to cherish the stuff that you do. So it's a good remembrance of something that we should not have to be reminded of, but we need to be reminded of.
Certainly, and those freedoms that we take for granted some days here in the United States, a reminder of that as well. But there is still a football game to be played. Sports, one of those uniting factors after 9/11, and Iowa State was part of that later on in that season in 2000. Of course, today we're back at it, first ever meeting between these top two teams, and a crazy day at that. But both coaches took time to reflect earlier this week on being there or where they were in their lives during that 9/11 attack.
The magnitude of what took place, you know, how old I was at that point, 20 years ago, not sure I grasped it totally, and you know how it's all changed all of our lives, not to mention just the tragedy of the whole thing and all the loss, and you know, so it's a really significant part of our history.
For the first time in my life, it was where I felt the freedom that I probably took for granted in our country. It felt challenged, and I think there was such a you know, you're at a unique time. You're in college, you're a junior, and there's a lot of emotion for the first time of, you know, what are you about? What do you stand for? And you watched our country respond and rally. But I think that was a powerful time in my life.
And it was a topic of conversation, of course, on College Game Day, which was back in Ames for the second time. And I'm going to say 2 years because last year was a throwaway year a little bit, Jeff. But a lot of excitement around College Game Day being back. A lot of trash talk going on out there on social media. Of course, a lot of people unhappy about the guest picker, Ashton Kutcher. But that's neither here nor there because College Game Day, once again, fans showing up in droves. They were lining up at 5:30, before 5:30 in the morning, because that's when they could get into the compound. And of course, fans very excited. Here's what they had to say ahead of College Game Day today.
It's pretty awesome because you can be on TV and everything. It's pretty cool. And I made the sign just for it, and I was here like 2 years ago.
Pretty nice. I like all the partying and college games. I'm not here for that. I'm here for the game. So, woo!
So obviously a lot of excitement there for all fans between Iowa and Iowa State. And of course, you know, we're going to talk a little bit more about that as the day progresses. But first, we got to bring in the next part of our crew. John Diaz holding down the fort in the AC. He gets to say cool while me and Jeff sweat it out here. John, how's it going?
Yeah, I am staying cool, guys. Thank you. All right, since going viral, Carson King, he turned a simple plea for beer money into a fundraiser for a great cause, $3 million for the Stead Family Children's Hospital in Iowa City. And he didn't stop there. Local 5's Ryan Scott caught up with him to reflect on that experience and what lies ahead.
I've had a bunch of people asking me if I'm going to go back to game day, if I'm going to do another sign.
Carson King's last visit to College Game Day is a familiar one to Iowans, a sign asking for beer money, leading to a new life of philanthropy and fame.
I'm not a celebrity.
Even if he's too modest to admit it.
Just because you're on TV a couple times doesn't make you anything special or any better than anyone else. I'm still the same guy. I'm just, doing my best to continue the fundraising.
Since presenting that $3 million, he started his own nonprofit, the Carson King Foundation. Their first event in February of 2020, a fundraiser for those struggling with mental health amid the pandemic.
My friends at Iowa Love and I partnered up and we sold Iowa Love shirts, Carson King Foundation edition, raised over $40,000.
Their next big cause, helping those hit by the derecho.
We raised over $60,000 to help storm relief victims.
Hundreds of thousands of dollars for Iowans in need over the last year. All because of a sign he still holds dear.
What does the other side say again?
So, Brock Purdy's Corn Jesus. I thought that was really funny. A West Virginia fan said that on Twitter one time, and I thought that was absolutely hilarious. This is my favorite side of the sign.
It usually hangs in his office at the foundation. You'll find other mementos from his experience around his Prairie City home.
This is before the Iowa-Penn State game where I got recognized on the field.
If you plan on going to this year's CyHawk series, there's a chance you'll see him in the stands.
I obviously have Iowa State winning. I think it's going to be one of the best games we've ever had in the CyHawk series.
His prediction?
I think Iowa State's going to take it 38-24. That's just my personal take.
All right, and Carson is back in Ames today for College Game Day as well, continuing to try to raise money for various charities. For now, John, let's get it back out to you at Jack Trice Stadium.
All right, thank you, John. And Jeff, Game Day being back again, second time in 2 years. What's it mean for this program and this game?
Well, I think it just says something, the respect that the nation now finally has for both teams in the state. It's been at games that Iowa's been at before, whether it's in Iowa City or elsewhere, but Iowa State finally has that respect that they are deserving of the national spotlight, and you've been able to retain that national spotlight from a couple years ago until now. You've been able to build success and keep success. So it says something about both teams that the nation respects them as much as we feel we should be respected.
And of course, a lot of excitement building around this game. Davis has been a little bit critical of the Cyclones leading up to it. He said this game is really critical for Iowa State if they want to prove they belong in that top 10. Would you agree?
Yeah, because I think there's a debate, hit or miss, depending on which national media pundit you talk to, how good they think the Big 12 is. Everybody thinks the Big 10 is great. And so if you beat one of the top dogs in the Big 10 in a rivalry game, in a top 10 matchup, you have all the spotlight. This really, it gives you a leg up. It's that big opportunity that you have to show that when we're on the national stage, we belong on the national stage. So this is one of those opportunities that, is it critical for Iowa State? Are they still going to have a good season if it doesn't go their way? Sure. But is this a huge opportunity to change the perception? Absolutely.
And of course, Ashton Kutcher, I'm guessing, picked Iowa. We didn't get to watch College Game Day. We were getting ready for the show. I'm going to assume he picked Iowa to win today. We'll give our picks later on in the show. Looking forward to bringing you all of that. But of course, before we get there, we're going to introduce you to our kid captain when we come back here on CyHawk Game Day.
A beautiful day out at Jack Trice Stadium. A lot of folks there already, many more expected by kickoff, and it's going to be a hot one. We'll have more on that in just a moment. But first, we want to talk about one tradition of each Iowa State football game, that is to have a kid captain who is currently receiving or has graduated from treatment at Blank Children's Hospital. They get to share a special moment with the team and meet the players down on the field. Local 5's Eva Anderson has a story of one of the Saturday's kid captains from Ames.
Gerald Terry isn't one to sit still. He's busy building Lego planes.
I started building these.
And helicopters.
Color spin.
Cheering on his favorite football team.
Poster, Iowa State Cyclones.
And playing football himself. Typically, nothing stands in this kid's way. Then, June 2020, Father's Day.
He had this weird feeling in his neck, and it was kind of a big lump that had all of a sudden just formed on his neck. And so we took a look at that, and then we looked in his throat, and one of his tonsils was about the size of a golf ball.
That golf ball was a large tumor. He was diagnosed with Burkitt's lymphoma, an aggressive cancer where the tumor can double in size within 24 to 48 hours. At the time, Gerald was only 7.
Did you know what cancer was? Had you heard about cancer?
No, not really.
Almost immediately, Gerald began chemo.
The chemo was, some of it was 30 minutes long and some of it was 24/7 that he was hooked up for.
But in typical Gerald fashion, he didn't sit still. He started doing laps around the hospital.
My doctor also said if you walk, it gets the chemo out of your body faster.
But he didn't stop there. For every lap, he took online donations for the very team that was providing him care. He called it Laps with Gerald.
I set my goal to like $300, and I got way more.
Way more is right. The pint-sized Cyclone football fan raised more than $12,000 for the Child Life program at Blank Children's Hospital. All with his family's support, like sister Kiera.
I believed in him.
And his mom, who nominated him to be an Iowa State Cyclone kid captain.
Never backed down. He was ready to go, whatever the doctors needed.
Gerald successfully finished treatment last September. A year later, he's looking forward to marking the occasion on the Cyclone football field.
I get to see my friends at the football game.
And now, Gerald has a lot more friends than the average 9-year-old. Friends who helped him and friends he helped in return.
And that was Eva Anderson reporting. Thank you, Eva. Let's switch gears and send you out to meteorologist Dave Downey out at Jack Trice Stadium. Dave, we know it's going to be a hot one, but how hot is it going to be?
Yeah, John, we're looking for temperatures up into the mid-90s this afternoon. Plenty of sun out here today. The only thing that might keep us from reaching the mid-90s, some wildfire smoke that's working from its west to east today. We're currently in the low 80s right now. We're going to work our way up, like I said, into the low to mid-90s by this afternoon. Of course, kickoff by 3:30 this afternoon. We're going to shoot for a temperature of around 92 degrees here in Ames, 94 in Des Moines. Temperatures will be slow to fall this afternoon, heading into the evening hours as well. You can see here, still by the end of the game, 7 o'clock, still 85 degrees here in Ames. By the end of the game tonight. Temperatures still slow to drop tonight, only in the mid-70s by the 10 o'clock hour after sunset tonight. Forecast for the CyHawk game, temperatures, like I said, 93 degrees at kickoff with that 3:30 kick right behind me at Jack Trice Stadium. Winds kicking out of the south, sustained winds between 10 and 20 miles per hour. Gusts to 25 are possible. And today might actually make it for one of the hottest games in Iowa State history. Record high of 97 for the Denver game, and still 79 degrees out there right now. Dew point, you can see at 69 degrees. It is a muggy one out there. Stay cool and drink plenty of water. CyHawk Game Day. We'll be right back after this break.
All right, take a look at this number, 100,000. That is the expected number of people either tailgating or going to the stadium for this weekend's CyHawk game. Ames Police holding meetings this week to prepare for the big game. It's their busiest weekend of the year.
We'll have about 20 officers working at the game. Most of them are on stadium security or in the tailgate lots. And then after the game, we'll probably have another 10 to 15 officers working after the game into the midnight shift to make sure that we have a safe environment for anyone who wants to go out at that point as well.
Now, 3 pieces of advice from Ames Police. For those of you who are going to the game or tailgating, check social media for any traffic issues. Don't park where you aren't supposed to. Tickets on game day are twice as high as normal, and get to the stadium as early as you can so you don't get stuck in traffic. And meteorologists, actually, we're going to send it to break, and we'll hopefully have some weather for you in just a little bit.
Zero chance. Welcome back. A beautiful but hot day out here for the big CyHawk showdown, right, guys? Yeah, it's a hot day, and people are excited. First time that both teams are ranked for game day today. Chief Meteorologist Brad Edwards joins me now. And Brad, it's hot today.
It's too hot for this jacket, Dave.
It is too hot.
Time to take jacket off. We are ready to rock here. You guys ready? I've got 100 of my closest friends here. We tailgate every week here, Dave. It's been a great time. Yeah, we got here. I think my wife got up at 3:30. Yes. 3:30 she got up. These guys got here 6 o'clock or 7 o'clock. I mean, we take this stuff seriously.
I mean, this is the biggest game. It is. Not only are you both teams ranked, both teams are ranked in the top 10 for the first time ever, let alone the same week they're playing each other. 3:30 kickoff now, and score predictions, Brad.
Okay, score predictions. What do you guys think? Cyclones 35? Yep. Yeah. Hawkeyes 3? 17. Yeah. How about this? Cyclone! Power! Cyclone! Power! Oh man, they know what to do.
Yeah, they do. So anyway, I mean, you got to drink plenty of water today. Temperatures in the low to mid-90s this afternoon. Dew points around 70 degrees. It could feel like 100 degrees by kickoff time this afternoon.
It's go Cyclones, and then go and then beat Iowa. They got that?
Key forward phrase there. Go Cyclones and beat Iowa.
Beat Iowa.
This is a game with massive playoff implications potentially, Brad, too, right?
One of these teams is going to catapult to the playoffs.
Sure.
I guarantee it. No, I
They're
don't.
going to
I
be
don't guarantee it.
potentially ranked in the top 5 after today.
You're
so.
right. He's right. Could be in the top 5. Is Iowa State ready for the playoffs?
All right, guys, 3:30 kickoff right here on Local 5. But for now, we're live here at Jack Trice Stadium. Jon Schaeffer, back to you.
Woo! Good job.
All righty, thanks, Dave. I'm jealous. You're getting to hang out with the man of the hour, Brad Edwards. I'm going to have to go find his tailgate after this and grab some grub. Alicia always delivers some of the best tailgate food you can find. Now, all eyes are going to be happening on what's happening on the field later today, but I can guarantee you there's going to be a pair of eyes looking back at the crowd. Local 5's Lakin McGee has a story on the Iowa kid captain.
I like to play with my dinosaurs.
Cece Hoover is 8 years old.
How does a dinosaur go?
Cece had an adventurous start to life.
Cece came into our lives when she was 1.5 years old. We adopted her from China. And when she was around 3 years old, we realized she was having trouble potty training.
Her pediatrician referred her to the University of Iowa Children's Hospital for an overactive bladder and leaking. Since then, Cece had 5 surgeries. Her last surgery was May of 2020, which lasted longer than 10 hours.
That was probably the most stressful one just because we couldn't both be there. Only one parent could be there at a time. Yeah, things are pretty strict in the hospital, understandably so.
When the 2020 football season rolled around, Cece was picked as kid captain. But COVID had other plans, forcing officials to cancel the kid captain tradition, meaning the Hoover family had to wait a year to announce Cece was picked from thousands of pediatric patients.
How did you keep that a secret?
Not very well at times.
Waiting 365 days around the sun, Cece is now finally ready to take the field.
It's fun. It's fun to be out there on the field.
The Hoover family, including Cece's big brother Matthew, plan to cheer her on, and the Hawkeyes too.
Is that your favorite team?
Say now it is.
Now it is.
Now it is.
And of course, the Hoover family praising Cece's nurses and doctors for getting her to where she is currently. A great story there from Lakin, and we'll have more on the Iowa State kid captain later on here on CyHawk Gameday. Still to come, we break out Jeff's whiteboard breakdown. Of course, first one of the year. He's excited to bring it to you. We'll get to it right after the break. Welcome back into CyHawk Gameday, a toasty one up here in Ames. So we're going to go inside to show you how Jeff Woody is in two places at once with his whiteboard breakdown.
Welcome back to the whiteboard. The first one of the 2021 season, right ahead of the CyHawk game. We're going to be recapping Iowa State and UNI for this very first one. So the expression nothing's ever as good as it seems and nothing's ever as bad as it seems is very true in the sport of football, especially in week one. A lot of funky stuff happens. Like, this is especially true when you are playing in front of a big crowd of 60,000 people and you had 0 fans last year. A lot of stuff just your adrenaline gets going, you miss assignments, that's okay. What Iowa State and Iowa both respectively did is they played balanced, consistent football and let the opponent make mistakes. UNI just didn't make that many big mistakes, but one of them was very obvious on the first sack by Will McDonald. So what you're going to see on this play is that Iowa State is running a double A-gap pressure. So what that means is they're going to have A-gaps right here. They're going to have 2 linebackers in those A-gaps. What that's going to do is it forces these 5 offensive linemen to choose who they're going to block. Iowa State's not actually going to bring all of them, but it makes the offensive linemen think. So what happens, Mike Rose is going to end up fading back this way. So he's going to be with spy because they know Will McElvain likes to run. So they're not going to try and pressure him with 6 because if you miss, he's going to run for a big long play. Well, here's where the weird stuff happens. So they're going to be running up the field, and Orion Vance is going to be on this side. Orion Vance knows, in the same way that Mike Rose knows, we're not trying to rush the quarterback. He's just trying to keep his outside arm free just in case McElvain bubbles out to one side. Didn't end up happening because this tackle didn't hear the snap count. You're playing in front of 60,000 people. He can't see the ball, the center or the quarterback. Somebody's yelling, "Ready, set, hut." He doesn't hear the hut. He doesn't move. Everyone else moves. This guy gets knocked on his butt. Literally doesn't get out of his stance. This tackle runs into him. That means the sack leader in the Big 12 is completely unblocked to the quarterback. Now, Iowa State just taking advantage of a good situation, he's not going to then play this kind of contain and hope that Will McElvain doesn't get outside of him. He's going to go right to this quarterback. But the way that he does it and the way that the rest of the defense is run says Iowa State's just being a disciplined team that takes advantage of a good situation and lets the mistakes be punished by the other team. So what Will McDonald does is runs to the back hip of the quarterback. It doesn't let him get out of this or get out in that direction. What happens is he runs at his back hip, forces him that way. Well, shoot. Orion Vance is doing his job of keeping his outside arm free. Once McElvain sees that, he goes, "Shoot, I am dead in the water. I have to eat this sack." And there's one little small moment that he takes and almost chucks it. He almost, as he's going down, just lets one rip. But he realizes I shouldn't, eats the ball, takes a sack, minus 12 yards, lived a punt, fine. If he would have thrown that ball, that's like what happened with Indiana, getting these bad pick 6 interceptions. So don't make one mistake multiple. You and I made mistakes. They ate it, fine. But Iowa State was there playing good fundamental defense with Mike Rose, Orion Vance, and Will McDonald to take advantage of when a guy just falls on his butt. So let's make sure that we go into this week understanding week 2 is going to be better than week 1. These mistakes should be fewer and far between, and this is going to be a hard-hitting matchup.
Stand by. Yeah, Jeff, you said it, hard-hitting matchup. It's going to be a fun one, though, and let's start off by talking about the Iowa State offense more specifically. Xavier Hutchinson, who really had a great performance last week, was the go-to guy for Brock Purdy.
Yeah, Xavier has got to be the guy that this Iowa defense loves to play downhill. They want to play aggressive in the run game. Well, that leaves their secondary players, as good as the secondary players are, that leaves them a little bit on an island. And so Xavier's going to have some opportunities if he's able to capitalize on them for some big plays.
And of course, the return of Charlie Kolar also plays into Xavier's hands because that's another hat to worry about for the Iowa Hawkeyes today.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things of you got to juggle and tie your shoes at the same time if you're a linebacker with Charlie Kolar, because you got to play against run defense and Breece Hall on the offensive line, and there's 2 tight ends and all that physicality. But you also got to prepare for the best receiving tight end in the country. And you got to be aware that he's going to be behind you, he's going to be in front of you, the linemen are there. You have to, again, it's juggling and tying your shoes at the same time. It's really hard to stop. When Charlie and Brock are connecting, this offense is really good.
And then with that, the offensive line, I think, has to take a step forward after what we saw last week, maybe opening up a couple more gaps for Breece Hall and company.
Yeah, and it's just communication too. I mean, you got to understand exactly what this dude next to you is doing at the exact millisecond that he's doing it. And it's tough sometimes week one. So that's why Coach Campbell, and I think Coach Ferentz probably said it during the week, the biggest difference that you're going to see between teams and weeks is going to be between week 1 and week 2, because you get that film to say, oh, hey, shoot, I didn't do that one all that well. So this is a big step that they'll need to take.
And of course, this is a more veteran unit than maybe we've seen years past for the Iowa State Cyclones. I mean, what stood out about the O-line last week, and what do you think they show up with today?
Well, I think it was just, communication. And it's also between Brees and the offensive line. Is I got to know exactly, because imagine you're on a concourse at the mall or something like that, and everybody in the mall is jogging or running, and you have to get from one side to the other. Well, if you got a couple people that are with you, you have to travel at the same time, at the same pace, the exact same spot. If you're too fast or too slow, you're going to get trampled. That's just like football. So the running back has to trust the offensive line, and the offensive line has to get him in the right spot. So that's just a feel thing. You get used to the timing a little bit more as week 1 to week 2.
And I think the biggest thing I'm excited to watch is the secondary on both sides. Let's talk briefly about the secondary for the Cyclones. They showed up really well last week.
Yeah, and I would say that's my big man on campus, or big men on campus, are Young, King, and Eisworth. Because if they're really good, they're involved in the run game, and I assume Young's going to thump somebody up in the box. But they also got 2 turnovers. The secondary got 2 turnovers last week. So it's going to be a big responsibility to keep Spencer Petrus and Tyler Goodson under wraps, as well as Laporta. So it's a big week for the Iowa State secondary.
Absolutely, and you mentioned it, our big men on campus is that secondary group. I mean, when you look at him, Aisheem Young knows how to lay the lumber. That kid is kind of got a Bob Sanders feel a little bit to him. If I want to make an Iowa reference about an Iowa State guy, dangerous reference, I know, but he's a fun guy to watch.
Short, physical, and absolutely fearless. Bob Sanders, Aisheem Young. Let's not make the comparison totally true, but it's a good person to emulate and aim for.
So that's your big men on campus. The Iowa State secondary going to have to get after it today if they want to win against the Cyclones. Coming up later on in the show, we're going to break down the Hawkeyes. Plenty more to get to, including another kid captain as well. We'll be right back here on CyHawk Gameday. Welcome back out to CyHawk Gameday. The breeze starting to pick up a little bit, helping us stay a little bit cooler. At least temperatures going to get into the 90s today, as Dave mentioned earlier. But more importantly, this rivalry has plenty of heat between both of these teams. Two teams that really understand the meaning behind the rivalry, even with a lot of guys that aren't necessarily from Iowa. Sure, there are a handful of Iowans on each squad starting today, but overall, they really get the meaning behind it. Both teams talked about it earlier this week.
There's always a higher level of energy, and to be honest with you, it's any rivalry game, and especially a game like this where the energy's high, it's who in the moment can fundamentally do their responsibility in detail. And I think you can look at us in this game at times. We have played well, and yet in the moments, some of the critical moments, we haven't been able to execute, and they have, and that's been the difference in the game.
Obviously, growing up in the area, being a lifelong Cyclones fan, it's been a special play or a special game for all my life, and it's just another opportunity for us as a team to go out there and execute to the best of our abilities.
We got a lot of guys from Iowa, and they always express themselves in the locker room. Locker room wise, I wouldn't expose everything, but it's definitely a good rivalry. It's definitely a good game.
I knew a lot about it just being recruited by both schools, and once I got here, you really realize, just being around a lot of people from Iowa, they always say you don't fully understand it unless you're from Iowa. So, I don't fully understand it, but I understand it to the highest extent of somebody who's not from Iowa.
Just the more time you spend in this state and around our team, and the more you get to interact with people that are Hawk fans, you realize that the animosity that's there, and maybe animosity is the wrong word, but the rivalry there. It's a big deal to both sides, and it's going to be a lot of fun. But I know we're all really excited. It's another great opportunity for our team to go on the road and to play a top 25 opponent. So it's just going to be a lot of fun.
Especially against a team from the same state. It's always a fun game to play against them. We always have close games.
I've been looking forward to it ever since the season ended. I anticipated it being here at home just because we went over there 2 years ago. My freshman year and played there, but it'll be exciting going over there and taking the hostility of the crowd and their excitement out of their fans, and just going over there and getting a win.
So obviously a lot of excitement between these two teams. The rivalry is growing year in and year out between Iowa State and Iowa, not just here, but also in households across the state. That's right. Can you believe it? There are actually houses divided on this. John Diaz, we go back to you in the studio. You've got a little bit more on this.
Yeah, John, as we get ready for the big CyHawk showdown, many are dealing, as you mentioned, with a house divided. But one business in Altoona is encouraging their members and other local businesses to come together as a house united.
The sound of competition.
A couple years ago, we decided to do this penny wars.
And with the Farrell's Altoona members clearly taking sides for the upcoming CyHawk showdown,
A lot of smack talk going back and forth.
they also have firsthand experience with where the money is going.
His family was up in Mayo for months, and the Ronald McDonald House was a godsend.
Really, the whole gist of it is trying to raise as much money as we can for the Ronald McDonald House.
They are using a friendly competition to inspire an opportunity to unite and give back.
This is a life-changing event, and the fact that Ronald McDonald House has a place for families to stay when your loved one is in the hospital, it's so special to us.
Plus, there are bragging rights on the line.
And what that means is if your team wins the Penny Wars Challenge, your team's flag flies in our gym until the end of football season.
And even pennies can add up big.
We actually raised a little over $1,100 last time. The difference between the two buckets was like $5.50.
Right now, local members are showcasing their team spirit during class, but they hope this competitive energy will spread to other local businesses.
Maybe that positive energy that we had here in doing this would spill over into other locations, small businesses in the state. Maybe we could do something really big for the Ronald McDonald House.
And if you at home would like to donate to make sure your team flag is flown proudly or to give back to the Ronald McDonald House, you can do so via Venmo at FXB Altoona. All right, let's get out to Carson J.S. Reichard, who has been bouncing around the tailgate lots at Jack Trice Stadium. Carson, what's going on out there, man?
Oh, we're live. Yeah. There are thousands of people who are out here tailgating today, celebrating a rivalry for the ages. How are you all feeling about the Cyclone chances today? Yeah, go Sept! What keeps you coming to these tailgating events? What does this game mean?
We're just excited to be here with our family and our friends and get together and spend a great Saturday here at Jack Trice.
And I believe I was told that there are 3 generations of Cyclone fans here and a couple Hawkeye fans in the back. Hawkeye fans in the back. 51 years, right?
51 years.
consecutive season tickets.
And so that's incredible. So how are you feeling about the Clones' chances tonight?
I feel good. I think we got a very, very good chance of getting this one.
Yeah, that's what I like to hear. Think they're going to swipe it?
Oh, yeah, I think so.
And what does this tradition mean to you to get to keep coming out here and get to keep having these tailgates?
It's just so much fun because all of our family comes with us. We've got 5 kids and they all Cyclone fans, and we all come together and just have a great time every Saturday.
Yeah,
it's awesome.
That's what I like to hear.
We've got some people in our family currently going here, and we're hoping we have another one going here next year too.
Will's going to be here next year.
So I'm sensing a little bit of brand loyalty.
Definitely. We'll certainly.
What's your favorite part of game day, but you can't get anywhere else?
I don't know. You answer
just
that
being
one.
together here.
Being together, lots of good food, lots of good drinks, and just the camaraderie. Yeah, just everybody getting together, having a good time.
It's a great
That's what it's about.
atmosphere.
Yep.
All right, that about does it. There are thousands of other people tailgating just like it. It is sure to be a show here today at Jack Trice. When we get back, we'll have more here on CyHawk Gameday. Welcome back into CyHawk Gameday. Time now to get to Jeff's whiteboard breakdown for the Iowa Hawkeyes this week, and a nice play by Tyler Goodson and company.
Welcome back to the whiteboard. Part 2. We get an hour-long show, so we get 2 of these. Whether you like it or not, we're back to the whiteboard. So in the first segment, we talked about how Iowa State was playing against Northern Iowa, and they had really good fundamental football that they just took advantage of a tackle falling on his butt, which led to a sack. Well, that's a mistake by UNI. Iowa State capitalizes. We're doing the exact same thing, just talking about the Iowa offense against the Indiana defense. So Tyler Goodson's touchdown run looked really impressive because it was. Iowa did everything you needed to do. But they were helped by Indiana having an elementary level mistake on where to align. So this is the front that Iowa State ended up, or that Iowa ended up running. The hash is right here. The other hash is about right here. So right now, if you were to draw a line on the hash and look at how many people are eligible blockers for Iowa on the right side of this line, you have 1, 2, 3, 4. And what that means is you have 5 gaps. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let's look at how many defenders Indiana actually has to set this. 1, 2, 3, 4. Uh-oh. We got 4 defenders for 5 gaps. So right now, you might have this alignment where you have A gap, B gap, C gap, and this corner is going up against a tight end or a fullback with 2 gaps to fill, undersized by about 50 pounds, because this guy should be over here. if he's over here and we put a backer here, then you have a C gap or a D gap player, A, B, C, D, E gap. You have outside contained player, and we're set. But that doesn't happen. Iowa State runs a stretch play, and they get blocked, blocked, blocked. Those get completely taken care of, and Tyler Goodson, with this fullback one-on-one to the corner, if this corner goes outside, Goodson cuts underneath. This corner cuts underneath, Goodson cuts outside. This play was bound to be a touchdown, assuming that these 4 guys did their job, which they did. So Indiana makes this horrendously fundamental mistake. Iowa State capitalized on it. That's what good teams do. But the mistake that Indiana made allowed a touchdown. The mistake that you and I did allowed a sack. The big discrepancy shows that good teams capitalize. Again, these mistakes are going to get fixed from week 1 to week 2. This is going to be a much fairer fight. I'm really excited to see the physicality and execution of both of these teams going up against each other once they have some film to play against. So great job by Iowa capitalizing on mistakes. Let's hope for both teams' sake that we get to play a game that's free from these major mistakes.
Major mistakes have always kind of plagued both of these teams in this series, one way or the other, for whoever tends to win. But, you know, I don't see this being a game of mistakes between these two.
Yeah, these are both extremely disciplined teams, and their main objective is we're not going to beat ourselves, you're going to beat yourself. And that's what happened with Northern Iowa last week. We saw in segment number 1, they give up a big sack. They have a couple different interceptions. We saw that with Indiana. That was just one with Tyler Goodson, a run that he had. We saw the pick sixes. They're not going to beat themselves, and so you're going to have to beat them. And when you have 2 teams that don't beat themselves, one of them has to win. So it's a big discipline, it's a big fundamentals game, it's a big who tackles better, who blocks better. It's an unsexy but very important game.
And for the betting interest out there, also tends to lean toward the under because of that mistake-free football. But let's talk a little bit about Tyler Goodson. All right, guy that doesn't get maybe as much press as he deserves in the state of Iowa just because of how good Breece Hall is. What kind of fire do you expect out of Goodson?
Yeah, Goodson's a terrific running back. And he's in a perfect system. If you are a running back, you want to run behind a Kirk Ferentz offensive line because you know you're going to have really solid players. You're going to have guys that are in the right spot, and you're just going to have the capacity to choose where you want to go because of that zone off or that zone blocking. Let's take that Goodson run that we just broke down against Indiana. Imagine if instead of getting all the way outside, they kick a couple guys out. Well, you have the choice. That's the great thing about a play and the way that Iowa runs. So he has a great opportunity, and you add his just innate vision and athleticism and speed to that. It's a very deadly combination.
And about 45 seconds left to talk about the Hawkeyes. Let's talk about the secondary. We're going to use it well. Riley Moss, 2 pick sixes last week. They're ball hawks.
Yeah, they're ball hawks. They're opportunistic. They're in the right spot when they need to be there. And again, they're not going to beat themselves. They're not going to blow a coverage. They're not going to generally miss tackles in the open field. They're going to make you earn it all the way down the field. And if you don't, and you pop a ball off your chest, they're going to be right there to take it into the end zone.
And that brings us to our big man on campus. We haven't talked about him quite yet, but Spencer Petrus. I know he was my big man on campus last week. I'm going to rinse and repeat, though, because the first hostile environment he'll see as a starter for the Hawkeyes, he's got to be a big man on campus.
And it's going to be very hostile. Again, let's think back to that first whiteboard segment. We saw what the offensive line for you and I did when they couldn't hear what was happening. Now you got to be the one that talks. You have to be the one that communicates to everyone. When this atmosphere could end up on the Richter scale with the noise they're going to make, it's going to be hard to communicate. So he has to be calm and trust his teammates that they're going to do the right thing.
Absolutely. Well, Spencer Petrus, big man on campus for the Hawkeyes. We'll see what shakes out. We're going to get to our 3 keys when we come back here on CyHawk Gameday out at Jack Trice Stadium. All righty, welcome back in. Time now for our 3 keys to a win. Let's start with the Iowa State Cyclones, the home team on the scoreboard.
Yeah, Iowa State, it's been well noted so far this week. Iowa State has not gotten a turnover from Iowa in 5 games.
That's insane.
It's insane luck. Well, change that. If you're going to be the winning team for Iowa State, if you're going to beat Iowa, win the turnover battle. The second one, you got to rattle Spencer Petrus. He's got a great center that's going to set his offensive line and trust his protection. Well, if you hit him, he can't trust that his protection's there. He starts looking down at McDonald and Peterson. He starts looking at the rush. So if you can rattle Petrus and hit him early, you start to rush his decision making. And then you got to relax and play ball. Like I said, this is going to be a bananas environment. So if you can get him, or if you can get yourself to calm down while the other team's up and excited, you are able to play relaxed, confident, consistent, together football, and that's going to get you a victory.
B-A-N-A-N-A-S, bananas out here at Jack Trice Stadium. With that, let's talk the Hawkeyes. For me, number 1, tune out the noise, as in don't let the crowd get to you. A young offensive line, can't let this noise drown out communication. If they do, it's going to be a field day for Will McDonald and company. Number 2, bend, do not break. Iowa State's going to get yards. They're going to get a lot of them. And if they make the necessary improvements from last week, it's all about holding the Cyclones to field goals or no points at all. And lastly, embrace being the underdog. Iowa hasn't been a dog in this series on the road in a very, very, very long time. Use that as motivation. Coming to mind, Tyler Goodson. Again, sick of hearing about Breece Hall and how good he is. He's going to be out to prove something. That underdog mentality's got to work for the Hawkeyes.
Yeah, it's a big game for both guys. There's stars on both sides of the field. It's physical on both sides of the field. This is going to be an exciting game.
All righty, when we come back on CyHawk Gameday, we'll give you our picks of the week, including on the Cyclones and the Hawkeyes. Less than 4 hours from kickoff here at Jack Trice Stadium. Cannot wait, but some other big games around the country as well. We're going to start with Oregon, Ohio State to pick from. Ohio State favored by 14.5.
It's basically a 6 a or a 7 a.m. game if you're an Oregon Duck and you got your 2 best defensive players out. Give me the Buckeyes at home.
I'm taking Oregon on the road. I think they pull off maybe a little bit of an upset. All right, Buffalo at Nebraska. I just hate Nebraska, so I'm taking Buffalo at plus 14.
I think just Buffalo lost their whole team to go to Kansas when the coach left, so give me the Huskers at home.
All righty, Missouri versus Kentucky SEC showdown. I still hate saying that about Mizzou, but I like Kentucky at -5.
I'll take Mizzou. I don't know anything about this game, so why not?
All righty, a lot of input there. Texas taking on Arkansas. Nice little cross-border rivalry. I got Texas at -7.
Arkansas, they were bad last year, they were bad the year before, and until you show me that you're not bad, give me Texas.
All righty, and that brings us to the CyHawk game, Iowa versus Iowa State. I'm going Cyclones at -4.
I think I have to. There's no, come on, like, as much
You're as Ashton Kutcher biased as there is.
I am an analyst and can see that this game is going to be really, really physical, but push comes to shove. I can't pick Iowa over Iowa State. Just in good faith,
Yeah.
I can't do it.
I think the Cyclones got the goods to get it done. We'll have a full recap tonight at 10 on Local 5 after the late football game here on ABC. Thanks for joining us for CyHawk Game Day. We'll see you in Week 3.